This conference is being recorded. Only the main conference is recorded.
Sorry, guys, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties in here. Okay, first we're going to discuss goals and objectives. Goals and objectives are similar, but they are different. A goal is broad with general intentions, and it is intangible. A goal establishes direction and destination, and it describes the general end results. An objective is narrow, precise, and tangible. Objectives are specific and measurable targets. You should keep in mind that both the goal and objective is the purpose of the contract. There is no right or wrong way for an agency to write goals and objectives. It's going to vary between agencies because every agency has different needs. When you're writing your statement of work, you just state the goal and describe the end result of the contract. Okay, I'm going to read these examples. For this first one, the goal is to increase productivity of departmental employees, and the objective says to send 100% of the staff to a time management class. So overall goal here, they want to increase productivity of their employees, and they intend to achieve this by sending 100% of their staff to a time management class. Pretty simple. The next one, they want to, for goal, they have listed to provide educational opportunities to Louisiana workers to secure and retain jobs, and the objective is to provide 12 welding classes and woodworking classes to recently laid off workers at ABC Company. So the overall goal is to provide educational opportunities to Louisiana workers, and they intend to do this by providing the 12 classes in welding and woodworking. You should notice between these, the goals are very broad in comparison to the objectives, which are more specific. Deliverables and outcomes are just a list of tasks that the contractor is going to provide for your agency. They are very specific, and they give time limits. And on this next slide, we're going to look at some examples. The first one says, submit samples taken during an investigation to a certified laboratory for lead analysis within 24 hours of investigation. The next one says, within 3 days after the receipt of the lab analysis results, the contractor will call the agency to provide an initial outline of the hazards and probable remedies. And the last one says, send a copy of the risk assessment report to the agency within 21 days after the receipt of the results analysis. Keep in mind that deliverables should be very specific to your agency's needs and need to give time limits if needed. You want to make sure you include all details necessary. For this first example that's listed here, it's critical that these samples are delivered to a certified lab within 24 hours for analysis. It could be for reasons that would have a negative impact on public health if delayed. If the agency has required the contractor to contact them within 3 days after the analysis has been complete with an initial outline of hazards and possible remedies, once again, if this was a situation dealing with public health, it would be or could be very important that the agency receive these results as soon as possible. So you need to keep all that in mind and be sure and list all deliverables and outcomes that are needed and set time limits if required. This list right here is just some more examples. Conduct kickoff meetings with project manager, conduct monthly status update meetings with the project manager and provide written reports, conduct gap analysis based on analysis of current state operation, organizational, and operational capabilities, develop and deliver presentation or report to agency that is inclusive of assessment activities, or identify duplication and or overlap in functions and responsibilities that may exist within the agency. On this list, you should be able to tell each one could be more specific, but again, since each agency is different, their needs might be different. When you're listing your deliverables, you should keep in mind, how do you want them to perform the services needed? Who do you want to complete the work? And what is included? Is equipment going to be your responsibility, or is the contractor going to provide equipment? What about any license? Do they need one to perform the work that you need done? If so, you need to state all of that. Why is this so important? Let's just say, for example, you want to hire someone to provide lawn care services. And in your statement of work, you list your deliverables, cut grass weekly during summer months and 2 times in winter months. You want them to edge, trim bushes, and use a blower whenever they're finished in the parking lot. But you don't think to specify that the grass needs to be cut outside of business hours for your office. or maybe you have to cut it on, or you need it cut on a certain day of the week. You also forgot to list that the contractor needs to provide all lawn equipment. If that contractor shows up to cut grass during business hours and the parking lot's full of all the employees, maybe they don't have a place to park and they can't get their equipment in to do the job. Or even worse, what if they show up and they don't have all the equipment to perform the work? The contractor could just come back and say, well, you didn't tell me that I needed to bring my weed eater or my trimmer or my blower or the lawnmower even. You just told me to show up, cut the grass. You didn't specify a specific time of day or day of week that you needed it cut. This is a very easy, simple example. It's easy for everybody to understand, but it does show potential contracting issues that could arise if you aren't clear and specific enough. I think it's a good practice to let someone else read over your statement of work. It's always good to have additional perspective. Maybe your coworker reads it and realizes that you left something out, like a time limit or some other important information that makes it more clear for the contractor to know what's expected of them. I hope this example helps y'all understand why this is so important. I tried to pick something that was simple for us to discuss. And does anybody have any questions over the information that I have covered so far? Okay. I do have one thing that's come up. Some people may have missed. I want to just go over it one more time. The last presentation that we did right before this one was for fundamentals of professional contracts, and there was a question that came up towards the end. And so just in case anybody was not on in the beginning or joined in late, I want to make sure everybody understands all professional service contracts, no matter the amount, should be done in writing. And any contracts under your delegation, they don't have to come to OSP for approval. However, they do need to be sent to us for monthly reporting purposes. Did anything else come up, Amber? Any other questions?
No other questions.
Okay, so if no one has any questions for me, then at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Brad. He's going to talk about performance measures and monitoring plan with you guys.
Good morning. I'm Brad Benos. I'm on the professional contract side of OSP. Performance measures are tools used to verify and track the performance of the contractor. They should be determined in advance and should be simple to understand by all parties and the public. On this slide are some examples of performance measures that can be utilized. You have your schedule with due dates, how many employees or clients were trained by a specific date, number of revisions to the proposed plan, response time of 48 hours on request for a legal opinion, and the number of persons who were able to get a job after receiving education, training, and counseling. Then part of the contract, you have the monitoring plan. Who will monitor the performance? The statement of work needs to include the title of the person that is responsible for monitoring the contract. It needs to include the frequency of the monitoring and how it will be monitored, such as monthly, weekly, and meetings by telephone, written reports, or emails. It also needs to include how it will be validated to ensure completion and compliance. And the reason for the unique title and what we mean by unique title is usually the person and usually the position that the employee holds. We suggest using the title or position of the person who will monitor the contract, because if you name a specific person in the monitoring plan, if that person leaves that position, you'll have to amend the contract, and that's just going to take a lot of extra work for everybody. So it's fine to list the person's name in the certification letter, but it's not a good idea to list it in the contract because it will have to be amended if they leave. On the next slide, I have a monitoring plan example. The contractor will be monitored by the program evaluator on a weekly basis by determining the number of students attending the training. The contractor will provide sign-in sheets in Excel format for validation purposes. And here's another example. The contract will be monitored by the Director of Health Services and Nursing. Each invoice would be reviewed for accurate dates for billing, after-hours, on-call coverage. Each visit, treatment, and consultation will be recorded in the individual's facility record, and the contract monitor will conduct biannual meetings either in person or by telephone to review progress and/or issues on the contract. And here's just one more example. The contract will be monitored by the program manager. The monitor will review a monthly report to determine the number of days a report has been assigned to the contractor. The monitor will review the accuracy of information entered by the contractor as well as the percentage of disability approvals and denials. Receive and review monthly invoices submitted by the contractor, ensure timely transmission to fiscal staff for payment of services rendered, and provide oversight of the contract funding throughout the life of the contract. All right, next we're going to have a little short quiz, and you can answer in chat. Please determine whether each item is either a goal, deliverable, a performance measure, or a monitoring plan. And you can respond with your answer in chat. Number 1, print approximately 350 copies of the manual for attendees at training sessions.
We have a lot of different answers coming in. Deliverable, objective, goal.
Okay, number 1 is going to be a deliverable. It's specific. Print approximately 350 copies of the manual for attendees at the training sessions. Okay, number 2, create an energy code training webpage. And that's either going to be a goal, deliverable, a performance measure, or a monitoring plan.
Deliverable, goal, objective, goal.
Okay, number 2, the answer is deliverable. You're asking them to create an energy code training webpage. All right, number 3, the code training program will focus on training home builders and designers on how to comply with the energy conservation portion of the 219 IECC. Once again, goal, deliverable, performance measure, or monitoring plan.
Goal, objective, mainly goal is the responses.
Yeah, number 3 is, the correct answer is goal. Number 4, improve literacy outcomes through the development of a systematic PD framework of evidence-based practices.
Goal, objective, monitoring, mostly goal is the responses.
And number 4, most of y'all answered correctly, is goal. All right, number 5, create and maintain a district-level team.
Objective, deliverable, goal, objective, goal, objective.
Okay, that one's going to be a deliverable. You want them to create and maintain a district-level team. Okay, number 6, meet quarterly with the district-level team. Is that going to be a performance measure, monitoring plan, goal, or deliverable?
Performance measure, monitoring plan, deliverable.
Okay, number 6 is a performance measure. Okay, moving on to number 7, submit agendas and sign-in sheets from quarterly meetings.
Deliverable, monitoring plan.
That's going to be a performance measure. Number 8, the results of activities and the outcome of data throughout the project will be shared with the staff on a bi-monthly basis by emails, conference calls, or face-to-face meetings. Once again, goal, deliverable, performance measure, or monitoring plan.
Monitoring plan, performance measure, deliverable. Most of the answers are monitoring plan.
Okay, and most of y'all got it right. It's going to be a monitoring plan. And the last two, provide educational opportunities to Louisiana workers to secure and retain jobs by conducting 12 classes in welding and woodworking to recently laid off workers at ABC Company.
Lots of different responses again. Objective, deliverable, performance measures.
That one's gonna be a goal. That's an overall goal of what the contract is gonna do. And the last one, meet quarterly with the executive director or designee to assess the completion of tasks assigned during the quarter.
Monitoring plan and performance measure are the responses coming in.
Okay, and the correct answer for that one is gonna be a monitoring plan. And that's the Copen. All right, and here we have, our contact information, our main phone number, our help desk for professional contracts, and our purchasing help desk. All right, we're gonna take, on some questions. Please go ahead and chat and ask us any questions you may have.
Okay, we have, the first one is, do agencies report contracts under $2,000 to OSP monthly?
That would depend on your agency's delegation.
In your example of the contractor cutting the grass, can we modify, amend the contract to list the specifics?
So you're saying you've already got, just in a scenario where you've already had a contract that was approved and you realize after the fact that you left out some stuff, well, yeah, you can come back and do an amendment at that, you know, if you realize, but just, that's kind of why I said in the example, good practice to make sure that you, get additional perspective from someone else, maybe if you have like a coworker or something like that, just kind of read over it and make sure, somebody else who knows what you need done, make sure that you didn't leave out anything important. But yes, if you have a contract that's approved in place for services, and say you realize that additional services are needed or something has come up and changed, then yes, you can go back and do an amendment on it.
And that's also why we have the, clauses in the contract that are the termination clauses, or standard contract clauses. So if the contractor comes back and says, hey, you know, that's not what you told me, and I'm not getting paid enough to do that, then you can just turn the contract and start over. So that's why it's very important to get it right the first time, because then you won't have to go back and redo a whole nother contract with another provider.
Okay, someone asked if you could please review the difference between a deliverable and a performance measure.
Okay, so your deliverables, remember should we go back to that spot?
Okay.
So your deliverables are lists of tasks that the contractor is going to provide, and so that's what's, we're saying be very specific and give time limits. So anything that you specifically need them to do. Your goals and objectives are just kind of more overall statement, not, your deliverables are gonna be very specific on, depends on what service you're trying to get done.
Well, for example, the lawn care service, he comes and mows the grass, but say his lawnmower is too high, and he's not cutting it short enough to your specifications, that would be, how well is he performing the job? Is he showing up to do it at all on the days that are required? So your deliverables are specific to what you want him to do, and the performance measures are, is he doing that job the way it's written up in the deliverables? Is he performing the task?
Okay, and then someone asked the difference between a performance measure and a monitoring plan.
Okay, the monitoring plan is how you're gonna determine those performance measures. What are you gonna meet with them, with the contractor, once a month and say, hey, we're monitoring this contract, you aren't doing the job right, and who's gonna monitor it? How often are they gonna meet with the contractor? and who is watching over to make sure they are delivering the deliverables.
Okay. Do the contracts and amendments have to be approved by legal before coming to OSP?
If it's a legal service like contract, then yes. So depending on if you're ProAct or doc tracking, when you enter the, if it's ProAct and you enter the transmittal, they have appropriate little boxes that you would check. And the same thing for doc tracking, it's just gonna be, of course, in a different spot. But if it's an attorney, legal contract, then there's a box where you go in and check for AG and general counsel to approve it, and it's gonna stop there before it gets here. That's why it's also important to make sure that you check all appropriate approval boxes whenever you go in and you enter the transmittal, because if you do need AG or general counsel approval and you forgot to check that off and it lands here, then we have to send it back, and those approvals haven't, it hasn't been approved yet, and so it delays your, approval time. Sometimes it can take a while if it has to go back through for internal approvals, when we receive it without them.
Okay. Someone would like to know, how do they find out their agency's DPA?
So that's
The master DPA list. I mean,
Yeah.
you can email the help desk, and they can get you that list.
I was actually just wondering, I'm sorry, I was, in my brain, I was thinking, about whether or not that information is on our website or not, but, yeah, we can definitely get that for you guys if you need it and you're questioning it, but,
Okay, we have, is there a difference between a goal and an objective?
so their goals and objectives, are the same. They're similar but different, so that's kind of how we had, talked about it. Your goal is just your overall, like if you have a project, it's just your overall, what you hope or expect, and then the objective will be kind of more specific of how you plan to get there. But they're both like the purpose of the contract. The kind of goals and objectives are kind of linked together, which is why I talked about them at the same time, on the same slide. They're similar but different.
Okay, the last question that we have is, as an auditor, who do I need to contact at OSP to obtain the performance measures for a particular agency?
So, read the question again. I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly.
It's an auditor asking a question, who do they need to contact to obtain the performance measures?
If it's something that was approved by the professional contracts team, I would say that the supervisor, would be a good place to start. Supervisor or manager is, the ones who usually, interact with an auditor.
And the auditor should have access to ProAct.
Right.
I don't see any other questions. If anybody else has any other questions, you can type them in the Q&A, or the chat.
Is that another one?
I don't see any other ones.
Okay, well, if there's no other questions, we'd like to thank you guys for, listening in, and hopefully this information helps you guys and, makes it just a little more clearer and easier to understand on, the importance of writing your statement of work and the importance of being so specific, so that way you get a good outcome for your contract
And
without any problem.
feel free to contact the help desk or me and Kayla directly if you have any further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.